Greetings, Bat Family, and welcome to Holy BatCast, brought to you by Real Fans for Real Movies. You can find us all over social media. Just look for Holy BatCast on Facebook, Twitter, X, Instagram. Yeah, those YouTube. That's the other one. Look for your Holy BatCast. You'll find them at all those places. You will also find us on Patreon if you're interested in such things. You can go to patreon.com/Holy BatCast and help support us if you choose. No pressure. It's okay if you don't. But for those of you who've done it, I just hope you know that it's amazing and I appreciate you. And it really does mean the world to me that you would support our little show here. So big thank you to our patrons as always. Big old long distance hugs to all of you. And for those of you who haven't done it, I don't know, consider it. Again, whatever you need to do. We're also part of the Real Fans Podcast Network. You can check out those shows at rf4rm.com. And finally, as always, I'm your bat host, Andy DeGenova. I'm back, and you can find me on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads. It's just always my name, Andy DeGenova. Now, I have been gone for a couple of weeks. The episodes have kept coming because, like I said, I prepared, but we haven't had anything timely to talk about. Well, that's what we're going to do today. We're going to catch up on the latest around the DC news landscape because a few things did drop while I was away. Nothing earth-shattering, but still interesting and still worth discussing. And I got a good loyal Bat fan and Bat friend joining me today, and he's a special guest, but he joins relatively often, and it's always great when I can steal him away from that other show that shall not be named. But it's my friend Joe Fornarotto from The Fire Rises. Hey, Joe.
What's going on, Andy? How's it going?
It's great. So thanks again for defecting from The Fire Rises. And, I heard that Eric's on hiatus anyway, so...
Yeah, he's a tad busy. He's a tad busy, so he loaned me for, I have like a little loaner contract for a couple days, so...
I appreciate it. Well, now that you're over here, we treat you so much better. I'm giving you a raise.
Thank you.
Yeah, whatever Eric pays you, add 30%.
Perfect.
Okay? It's a deal.
Wouldn't ask for any more.
Right. I was going to give you the Jelly of the Month Club, but I was like, no, I can do better. I can do better because that's cold, and then if you have a rubber hose, you might beat me like, no. Anyway, welcome back.
Thank you. It's been, I'm trying to remember the last episode I was on was it
Valentine's?
I guess it was. That? Yeah. Nope. It was either that or I think we did a news catch up one time too. Or maybe it was the Superman, the logo reveal. We did that.
Oh, maybe it's that. Yeah.
I don't remember if that was first or not. But yeah, it's always fun to come back here. I'm honored to be in the reserves here. So
you're on the bench.
Yeah.
You're on the bench.
It's nice to be able to fill in here. I love it.
That's good. And I do always invite Eric, but I mean, you're my favorite. I just do it to be nice. But yeah. So yeah, it's been a minute, but it is nice to, to always have it. And since you guys in The Fire Rises, you don't really touch the news, it's nice to come over here and do it here sometimes.
Yeah, definitely.
All right. Well, we're going to do that. Before we do that, as always, we got to give a shout out to our pals over at Manscaped. So fellas, blink if you haven't purchased a Father's Day gift yet. Yeah, we thought so. Today's episode is brought to you by Manscaped, the leaders in below the waist grooming. Maybe your pops is I don't even want to think about my dad. My dad's not around, but I don't think about any dads pubes, but here it is. It says, maybe your pops has had a bush since the 70s, and that's okay. Our friends at Manscaped have crafted the total package for his special day. Whether it's for the boys downstairs, his beard, or even the best pair of underwear out there, Manscaped has the bases covered. Head over to manscaped.com, get 20% off and free shipping with the code BATSCAPED. From daddy to zaddy, trust Manscaped. So, yes, it's a perfect gift regardless of anyone in your life, whether it be for your father, whether it just be someone in your life who is a father. It's a great Father's Day gift because it's nice and it's practical. You can use it. So again, maybe they have a beard. Get them the beard headgear, Maybe they just need new underwear. The boxer briefs are awesome. Maybe they just want to try a new deodorant or a new cologne, or maybe they want the best trimmer on the market. Whatever it is they might need, go to manscaped.com. Give it a try. Pick them up something. The handyman face shaver. I always give a shout out because it's one of my favorite things. So they have lots of great stuff over at manscaped.com. Take a look. And if you are going to make a purchase, just please use that promo code BATSCAPED to get that 20% off and the free shipping. And then you're supporting Holy BatCast in the process, and that means a lot too. So no pressure. Check out manscaped.com for the best grooming stuff on the market. It's good quality products. I use it. I love it. I know Joe does. I know a lot of our friends in our little bat circle do, thanks to their sponsorship of the show. But everyone's been happy with their stuff, and I know you will be too. So if you're going to make a purchase, again, all I ask is you use the code BATSCAPED to get your discount, get your free shipping, and that way, they'll keep on sponsoring us. So big thank you to those of you who've already done it. And if you haven't, maybe this is the month to check it out. So manscaped.com, that promo code is BATSCAPED. So let's move on to some things to chat about, Joe, shall we?
Let's.
Okay, here's the first thing I want to talk about. So I did go on a cruise. You know this. I mentioned it on a previous episode. And here's what I love about cruises, aside from the excessive amounts of food and relaxation, and my phone doesn't really work, and that's wonderful. So I get a lot of reading done on cruises. And so I did a lot of comic book reading catch up. And that was really fun between chasing Harley around the ship, which was my full-time job. But there were times we put her in the nursery and I just read comics, and it was awesome. And so I've gotten messages, over the years. They're like, yeah, you don't talk about comics enough. And I'm like, well, first of all, when I do, nobody cares. Second of all, it's because I'm not good at keeping current, and it's not lack of want. It's just time. You know how it is, right? You're a dad. You got 2 small kids. It's hard to find the time. And so I was happy to do some reading, but I wanted to give quick little thoughts because I read 3 big DC books while I was on the ship. And the first one I just finished last week, but I read the whole thing, was Justice League versus Godzilla versus Kong. And did you read that one, Joe?
I did not, and I've been meaning to check that out because I got away from buying or even subscribing to the digital format of any of the current comics. And so I've been trying to read like those types where it's like a 6-issue miniseries or that kind of thing. I got into some of those, but that is one that kind of passed me by. I haven't checked it out yet.
So those I've been buying by the issue digitally, and then I didn't even read the first one until this cruise, and then I kind of flew right through them because it's great. Highly recommend.
Oh, that's good.
I loved it. It feels like a big summer movie. It just happens to be in comic book form, but it's a blast. They have such a good time with the entire Justice League, and not just like the core. They go deep. They use so many different characters, and they have a lot of fun with the world of Godzilla and Kong. I loved it, and I immediately messaged Jamie when I got back on land. I'm like, please tell me you're reading this. And he's like, I am. I love it. He goes, I still have one more issue to go. I'm like, okay, well, I'm not going to say anything, and I'm not going to spoil anything here other than just to say it's absolutely worth your time, especially if you like those 2 franchises. I think they knocked it out of the park. I had a blast reading it, so that was a really nice surprise. And for some reason, it ended up being 7 issues, which is odd because I thought it was announced for 6.
So it's funny you say that because I remember me and Eric covered The Batman Who Laughs. And I think that was the same type of thing where I think sometimes these books sell really well and DC will go, you know what, do one more issue if you can. Like try to like spread it out for one more issue.
Yeah.
I think that's what happens because very rarely do they plan on doing a 7-issue series. Usually it's either 6 or 8 or
exactly. Yeah, 7's a weird number.
Exactly.
Yeah, but for whatever reason, that's what it was. But again, highly worth your time, especially I think that at least the first few issues are on DC Universe Infinite now.
Yes.
So you can probably just read them that way. And for the most part, that's where I do my reading. But I have, I subscribed to the Justice League Godzilla Kong one because I was interested, and I didn't read it until now anyway. But I've done that with a few. And another one that I subscribed to because, of course, I just want it on its own, and that's Batman 89. So thus far, we've only had 2 issues of that. And I want to say it came up relatively recently. I don't remember who was on the show, who I was talking to, but it came up relatively recently where we're like, well, yeah, they released one, and then 3 or 4 months later, they released another one. And now who knows when the next one's coming out? It seems like they've learned nothing from the first time, where the release is just completely unpredictable, and I have no idea when more is coming. But I don't know if you've checked those out.
I haven't, and I know we've definitely discussed it in our chat about the release schedule to that, and that's why I haven't even bothered checking it out, because I remember seeing the first issue was coming, and then it was like there was no news even on when the second issue was coming, or like it just kind of crept up. Like I didn't even know the first issue was coming when it did, and we're like I feel like that was like 6 or 7 months ago, and we're only 2 issues in. I thought the
Yeah.
third. I
Yeah.
thought at least the third by now.
Nope.
Yeah, so I'm unfortunately, and it's a shame because I want to support those books like that, but also for a cost perspective from myself, to wait for DC Universe Infinite is so much easier. And I have said it numerous times. I have the worst memory. If you put out a book 3 months after the first issue, I'm not going to remember anything I read from the first issue.
Well,
So
yeah.
I'm much better off just reading it once the whole thing comes out. And like you said too, like we're busy now. I don't need to read these things as they come out. I have enough stuff going on where I have like, hit my fill on geek stuff. So I can wait now, which is kind of nice. It's
Mhm.
kind of depressing when you think about it, that like I'm not anticipating this stuff as much as I could be, but it is a little nicer to just be able to binge this stuff at my leisure as opposed to waiting for something and like dying to see how it concludes.
Yeah, no, I agree with that, and I have the same issue where unless it's coming out regularly, yeah, I'm gonna forget what happened, and when it's something like this that's, like, so heavily serialized, it is better to read them all at once, and so I read the first 2, but yeah, who knows when 3 is coming out, but I wanted to pay for them because again, I wanted to support the book itself,
Mhm.
and it's one of those where and then I'll buy it physically because of course I will, and then, I'll have it in many different forms,
Yeah.
but, this one, the first 2 issues, I'll just say it's okay. I wish I could say I loved it, and there's some really cool things in it, but there are also some really odd choices. And so it's one of those things where maybe it's all going to come together and it'll be great. But I will say, and again, this is not spoilery because they're right there on the covers. I do like what they are doing with Jonathan Crane and with Harley Quinn. I think that there's
Mhm.
some really good thoughts and good ideas of the two of them. Um, but what they're doing with Bruce is real weird, and I don't understand it. And again, maybe I will, but for now, I'm just like, what are you doing? I don't get it. So interesting. So that one, I wish I could say, oh my god, like it's so good, check it out. But I'm very curious to see how it proceeds because it's for so far it's a mixed bag with just 2 issues in.
Yeah, I think you either shared something with us or I saw someone else comment about something with what they're doing with Bruce, and it could be potentially spoilery, so I don't want to say it here. But yeah, definitely interesting, especially with the if you're gonna put such a delay on these issues, you better make the first two count. And it seems like if it's not starting with a bang, you're gonna lose people a lot easier
Yeah,
if
yeah.
it's not coming out right away.
I mean, you've already got me in. It's fine, but yeah, I have to imagine that sales suffered on the first series, the first mini series, because of the release schedule getting delayed and getting irregular. And here they're doing it all over again. I'm like, guys, like, people can't wait to buy these, but if you don't provide them regularly, they're gonna forget about it. And you're the ones who are gonna suffer. So anyway, I do love that they kind of cast the characters with actors.
Yeah.
Um, so you know, Harley Quinn is very much Madonna, which
Mhm.
was one of the rumors when they thought they were going to do that. And Jonathan Crane is definitely Jeff Goldblum, so I love that. And there are some other things like that where I'm like, oh, they're totally just making this character this actor, and I'm like, I think that's really fun. Like to again kind of imagine a time and a place where these are the actors who would be cast. But I can't remember who we thought Barbara Gordon was. I want to say Winona Ryder, but maybe I'm just making that up.
I feel like we did discuss that. Um, I don't remember if it was ever like discussed
Yeah,
past that.
it's not as clear as like Jeff Goldblum. It's obvious that that's Jeff Goldblum, right?
So was
Um,
that ever rumored with Jeff Goldblum? I didn't know that because I
he,
haven't been following the book at all, so I didn't know.
I feel like he was more of a fan cast than he was actually discussed. I
Okay.
want to say, again, the development on Batman 5.
Yeah, it
ended
didn't
so
go.
abruptly. It
Yeah.
didn't go very far. Joel Schumacher did talk about wanting to do Harley Quinn. And again, I don't even know how real the Madonna thing was and how much of that was just fans.
Well, it was
I know
also what's her name?
Courtney
Courtney
Love.
Love. Yeah.
Yeah, Courtney Love was the other one mentioned.
Yep.
But again, looking at the artwork in this, I'm like, that's Madonna.
Hmm.
Um, and so for the Scarecrow, the one that had been kicked around the most was Nicolas Cage, which I think could have worked.
Hmm.
But again, I don't know if Jeff Goldblum was ever a real thing, but if you were to go back and to make it, that's who should have been it. So I love the casting, in
Yeah.
my
Now
opinion.
Nicolas Cage is in the multiverse as
Yeah.
canon. So.
Right. So anyway, Echoes, Batman 89 Echoes. It's all right. There's some cool stuff again that I really like, and then there's some stuff where I'm like, what, we'll see how it goes. So that's where I am right now. And then the final one I want to call out, because this came up in the mailbox not that long ago. One of our listeners emailed and was like, "Hey, do you happen to be reading the main Batman run by Chip Zdarsky?" And I had read it when he first joined the book, and I read quite a bit at that point, and then I got distracted, and I thought there were some cool ideas when he started, but I kind of lost track of it. And so what I got on the cruise, I had 16 issues to catch up on.
Oof.
And is that book every 2 weeks or is it every month?
I'm the wrong person to ask. It was
Okay.
every 2 weeks for a long time. I don't know when they cut back on a lot of the monthlies that they went back to once a month for the main titles too. Like the Batman books, both of them were twice a month. So
They
it was
were for a
really
while,
hard.
so yeah, I don't remember if it still is or not, and I apologize. Somebody at home will tell me. But my point is, so if it's monthly, that was over a year's worth of comics.
Mhm.
If it's bi-monthly, then okay, then maybe it's more like 3/4 of a year. But I read all 16, and the listener warned me. I do remember that. The listener was like, are you reading it? Because it's real bad. And I hate to say it, but yeah, guys, don't do it. It's rough. It is rough. What's crazy to me is that when he joined the book and I started reading it and I thought there were some cool ideas, however much longer later, however long it's been now, he's still beating those horses. Like almost nothing has progressed. And I was like, wait, we're still doing this? We're still doing failsafe? Failsafe has been the villain now for however long, a year, maybe two. Oh my God. Like if you want to do that failsafe story, great, more power to you. There's some cool ideas in there. Then do it for 3 or 4 issues, maybe six. You did it for 20 issues? That's crazy to me. So anyway, there was a little like 3 issue arc in there that I thought was kind of fun. Aside from that, I did not enjoy myself to the point where I unsubscribed
Yeah,
because
that's a shame.
because again, that's one that I buy. I buy by issue, which I don't know why I do because I don't read them when they come out. I should just wait till it hits DC Universe Infinite. But again, I want to support the Batman book. But after reading it, I was like, yeah, I'm unsubscribing. This is just a waste of my money. And yeah, so whoever the listener was, I can't remember who wrote in. I agree with you. I did not enjoy it, and I think even Eric said he tried to start and he tapped out pretty quick.
So I'm looking at the release schedule, and this is going by DC Universe Infinite. It's kind of erratic, where like it was monthly up until January, and then there were 4 issues in February because of maybe a tie-in. So
Okay.
yeah, so I don't know. So it does seem like for the most part it's back to monthly though.
Okay, so here's what it said. Zdarsky took over July of 2022.
Okay.
So we're coming up on 2 years.
It seems like
And
it has been monthly.
he's still doing failsafe. And I don't even know if you know what failsafe is, but
No,
that
I
was
don't. I'm so far out of the loop. I haven't read Batman since the beginning of Tynion's run, and I fell off of that when like Fear State happened.
okay.
And then even Detective, I tried going further. I think Detective, I fell off when Tomasi was there, and that's even been a long time. So I have not. When Fear State happened, that was kind of my falling off point. I kind of like look just because it took a break for like 6 months. So other than Nightwing, I have not read any current ongoing series.
Okay. Well, yeah, after reading this, I'm like, I need to go back to DC Universe Infinite and pick back up World's Finest because I was loving that, and
Mhm.
to pick up Nightwing because I was loving that. So I need to go back to those because those were those I remember, those I was really into, but again, I fell off because I always do. But yeah, Failsafe is like this villain that he introduced when he took over, and it's been almost 2 years, and it's still freaking Failsafe. Still, I'm like, what do you? Anyway, so
And like
I don't want.
if it's interesting, fine, but is it like all lead up where nothing is happening with them?
Oh no, it just won't end. It's just going on and on and on. And
Yeah.
I'm like, well, how are we still doing this? It's nuts. Um, yeah. So anyway, that's my opinion. Anybody out there who's reading it and who's loving it, that's awesome. But I will say I haven't heard a single person who's loving it. So I don't know. If you are, that's great because I want people loving Batman comics. But I'm bummed out because I was like, and I read all 16. I did. I was like, well, I'm in for a penny, in for a pound. I bought these things,
Yeah.
and I read them all, and I was like, I couldn't wait to be done.
And like I'm
So
so bad at keeping up with it that now I think DC Universe is every what is it, 2 or 3, is it, it might even be 1 month. Like it's pretty quick how we get it now.
yeah,
Um
yeah. The window I feel got shorter when they raised the price.
and it just I never kept up with it anyway, so I just decided, okay, I'm just gonna go with DC Universe Infinite. And not to, I know, like you said, a lot of people don't get too into the comics talk on here with you, but bitter old man talk, like, just old man yelling at the clouds. I was really into Nightwing. I thought Nightwing was great. And then what happened was they started the Titans run, which I'm like, oh great, I'm gonna read the Titans run because Tom Taylor's doing Titans and Nightwing. And then a tie-in happened. And I'm like, oh no, I have to read like 20 issues of stuff that I don't care about to get this whole story. And it was like a horror story. What do you remember that one?
Oh my
I
god!
know I
Like,
discussed it with you and I can't remember what it was.
is this like
Um
relatively recently, within the last year?
yeah.
Because in those 16 issues, there were a couple that were called Gotham War. Is that what you're thinking of?
No,
Mm.
it was something that actually had like the original Sandman in it. It
Oh, I don't know.
it was interesting, but again, like I had to like it took me like 20 minutes to figure out what issues I was going to read because I'm like, okay, I'm not reading the whole story. And it's like, okay, which ones are necessary for me to read to just get the gist of it for Titans and Nightwing? And then I
Yeah,
was like that's the stuff that kind of, as I'm getting older and have less time, that kind of detracts me from reading these. And where I know they've always done that. That's not something new, but it just does become a little frustrating when you don't love all of the other books.
yeah, yeah, for sure. All right. Well, anyway, enough of that. I apologize. I didn't want to end on a negative note, but also I'm just tell you what I think. Um, but on more exciting news around the comic book front, and this is something that just came out, I think, last week. We found out we are getting a finale, a conclusion to the long Halloween saga called The Last Halloween. And so this is being written by Jeff Loeb. And apparently, Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale did discuss this before Sale's death. And what Loeb said is he said, "It is Tim Sale's parting gift to me. We had already decided to tell this last chapter following the long Halloween special, which will serve as the prologue to this 10-part action packed mystery." So it is 10 parts. And obviously, because it won't have Sale's artwork, they're bringing in just a bunch of all-star artists to come and do the art instead. So that includes Eduardo Riso, Dave Stewart, Richard Starkings, um, Klaus Janson, Mark Chiarello. So yeah, lots of other artists, and then even some that aren't named yet. So for those, first of all, I remember loving the Long Halloween special when that came out a couple years ago. And so this is very bittersweet, but I think very cool. And it's nice that at least it was something they had planned together and they're getting to do this as one last tribute to Tim Sale.
Yeah, I think that's the key for me was if this was done and that was never discussed, I would have felt a little odd with it. And I don't think it's like disrespectful or anything like that if that wasn't the case. But it means more knowing that it was planned with Tim Sale, and it's definitely you know, a bittersweet idea now that he doesn't get to do it. But listen, I love the Long Halloween. You're right. The Long Halloween special was great. Had a lot of fun with that. Never thought we would get anything like that. And I definitely didn't think we would get anything past that. So I think the way they're doing it is really cool with the 12. You know, I think it's a 12. Yeah, because it's Long Halloween. They're going to do 12 issues probably. And
Oh, it says
different.
10.
Oh,
10.
it's 10.
Yeah.
Huh. That's interesting.
Yeah, maybe they're skipping Mother and Father's Day.
so all right. But yeah, I would love to see more from the world of the Long Halloween, and it's going to be weird to see how they're going to do it. Are the artists going to try to emulate Tim Sale, which is going to be really difficult, or are they just going to do their own thing and try to stylize it a little bit to fit in the world?
Yeah.
That makes me curious.
Yeah, same. I thought the same thing. Is like, yeah, how much are they gonna? I mean, yeah, it's like I can't imagine they're just gonna do like a Tim Sale impression because I feel like that almost defeats the purpose. You know,
Exactly.
it allows them to put their own spin on this style in their own way, and I think that can be really interesting and fun.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I'm very intrigued to see how that's going to turn out. So this is coming this year. It's starting on September 25th.
Well, hopefully this is one that they've planned out and will actually release month to month, because
Yeah,
this is definitely a book that would not work if it's not that way.
yeah, absolutely.
So
So it is cool, but it's definitely bittersweet news, but cool news nonetheless, especially for those of us which is most Batman fans who love the Long Halloween. Well, okie dokie. Something else coming our way in September is a little bonus DC movie, kind of, sort of. You know what I'm talking about?
I'm trying to think. In September.
Yeah. Okay. And it's tricky. It's okay. And this is one that I forgot to mention before we started recording, so it's a little bit of a surprise.
The only thing I can
So
think of is Watchmen, the animated thing, but no.
no. So, coming to theaters on September 21st is Superman, the Christopher Reeve story,
Yes, I did hear about this. Okay.
the documentary about Christopher Reeve. So it is 2 nights only from Fathom Events, September 21st, and then on his birthday on September 25th. So, if you want to, you can go pick up The Last Halloween and then go check out Superman, the Christopher Reeve story the same day on the 25th of September. So, this I think is really cool. It's really nice. James Gunn has been really behind it. I think he's the one who fought to acquire it and make sure that it did get released theatrically, which I love. But yeah, this is very cool. Sounds like it was really well received when they screened it at Sundance, and so I'm really looking forward to seeing it. I don't know if I'm going to get to see it on the big screen because I only got 2 nights as an option. But regardless, for anybody out there, mark your calendars, September 21st and 25th. You can go see the documentary about Christopher Reeve. Are you going, Joe?
I don't know if I'll make it to the theater to see it, but it will be on Max, correct?
Yes, I think it will afterwards.
I think James Gunn actually announced when that deal happened, because he fought for it. Or I mean, I don't know how much he actually fought for it, but he said he was just happy that it was staying in house, basically, that
Right.
documentary. So yeah, it's definitely, we've all known the legend of Christopher Reeve to an extent. I mean, there's nothing that we can really say that hasn't already been said, but it'll be nice to see maybe a full career spanning documentary on him that will probably hopefully give us some stuff that we didn't know already.
Yeah, for sure. I'm looking this up. So there's no date for Max on this article that I found, but it did say that yes, Warner Brothers Discovery did purchase the streaming rights,
Mm-hmm.
and that was championed by James Gunn. So
And it's smart to not give us the date on that, because if you tell us ahead of time it's going to be this date, then people will be like, oh, okay, then I have a date. I know when it's going to be. I'm not going to go see it in theaters. Don't
right,
announce that
absolutely,
date prior.
yeah. But yeah, very cool. For anybody out there who's gonna go, I can't wait to hear all about it. And For me, I'm going to have to decide closer to it because depending on what's going on with my life and kid and all that good stuff. But still, it's very cool that it's at least getting a limited theatrical release and then will be available on Max afterwards.
Mhm.
So it's nice to see James Gunn championing all corners of the DC universe. And there was a little tidbit that came out this week that it's just a tease, but someone asked him on Threads, because James Gunn is mostly on Threads these days. They said, just give me a wink if Deathstroke is going to show up because I've been waiting too long for Deathstroke. And he gave a little wink. So seems like Deathstroke might be part of the greater DCU moving forward, which I agree. It's about time. I still feel like we got robbed of Joe Manganiello Deathstroke. Like they had the perfect, they had the perfect actor. They had a great suit. And then all we got was a tease.
Mm-hmm.
Regardless, I'll let that go. Let it go. But still, it's cool that it seems like he might be on the docket. Just don't know where.
It's one of those things that like I see everyone kind of like flipping out about or being excited about, and I get it. Like it's exciting. Okay, we're getting Deathstroke, but another part of me was kind of like, well, duh. Like I don't know. I just kind of assumed like the way James Gunn is, he's. I mean, a Titans movie is in development. I wouldn't be shocked if that's where he's showing up first.
That is a very valid point. I didn't think of that, but as soon as you said Titans, I was like, oh duh, that makes a lot of sense.
It just seems, yeah, it just seems like all of our fanboy wishes, James Gunn probably has the same ones, and he's going to champion those wishes probably because he just seems like that kind of guy. So
Yeah.
And if he doesn't, I mean, it's Deathstroke. He's showing up somewhere, which is nice to know. And we've said it before too. We still only know about half of the first phase of the slate, so I don't think we're getting a Deathstroke movie. But who knows where else he could show up?
I mean, the thing about Deathstroke is he's so versatile that he could pop up almost anywhere,
Mm-hmm.
and it would make sense. Like he could pop up in Peacemaker, and it would make sense.
Yeah.
He could pop up in Waller and it would make sense. He could pop up in Superman and it would make sense. You're right. Like if you're just looking at the things that are on the table, what is the most natural would be something like Titans, but we don't really know what the timeline is for that.
No.
But yeah, it really could be anything because he was very much a Titans character, but over the years has really just become a greater DC universe character. So yeah, I mean, I could see him causing trouble for Peacemaker as early as next year.
Or
So who knows?
I mean, not to be the downer, but it also could just mean, yeah, James Gunn plans on using them, and it could mean nothing. Like it could be down the road, you know. It could be way down the road. Like, of course, I'm going to use them, just not yet. So
sure,
who knows?
You're right. It could be right away. It could be in another 5 years. We have no clue. But anyway, for Deathstroke fans, it's good news if you guys are looking forward to that. I mean, again, we kind of got cheated out of our big screen Deathstroke because of the way things happened last time. But it's worth mentioning, we got a pretty rad Deathstroke on Titans, in my opinion. I thought he was great.
Oh, I love the version of the version of Deathstroke on Titans. We've kind of been spoiled. It's weird that the movie one is the one we got gypped on the most.
Yeah.
I liked Deathstroke, Manu Bennett's Deathstroke and Arrow.
Me too.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we've gotten him, you're right, just cinematically. That was the tease that didn't get paid off. But yeah, on Titans he was great. You're right, Manu Bennett was great. Was that season 2 of Arrow? Which was like the season of Arrow.
Yep.
That was like the best season.
That's definitely my favorite season of Arrow. So yeah.
Yeah. So anyway, that was a fun little tidbit that came out. Something else that came out, and it's funny and it's good that before I went on my trips, me and Sean Gerber sat down and we were like, oh, here's kind of where everything is with the still forming DC universe, James Gunn and Peter Safran's DC universe. And here's what we've known about. And here's what we haven't heard from. And right after that episode came out, we started getting more news.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not saying it's because of us. I'm just saying that it was serendipitous, of like, we couldn't have done that episode a week later because we would have had new news. So that worked out well. And one of the things that Sean and I discussed in detail was Lanterns, the Lanterns show. And we knew that that was at least front of mind for James Gunn because he posted that image of the Green Lantern ring with the bloody fist. And it seems like Lanterns is moving forward because now we have confirmation on multiple writers, and the confirmation came from James Gunn himself. So we knew that James Gunn was helping shepherd that along, and we already knew he was working with Tom King, but now it's also confirmed that he is working with Chris Mundy and Damon Lindelof. So here's what he says. He says, yes, it's true. The Lanterns DCU series is putting together a crack team of writers based on a wonderful pilot script and Bible by Chris Mundy, Tom King, and Damon Lindelof. A hearty welcome to Chris and Damon as they join the DC Studios family. No welcome necessary for old Tom King, who's been here since the inception. So, for me, well, no, I'm not going to say anything. You say, Joe, you tell me your thoughts. How you feeling about this? I'm not leading the witness.
I will say, to what you guys were discussing on the show with you and Sean were discussing, I don't know how I feel about quote unquote a grounded Lantern show that takes place on Earth, and then after saying that, when they announced that, and I'm going to screw up the name, is it Damon Lindelof?
Correct.
Okay, when they announced him, and I thought to myself, okay, would you consider Watchmen a grounded quote unquote superhero story? Like, I got really excited because if you're going to do an Earth-based Lantern show and you're going to get me with him, that's how you're going to get me. Because I loved Watchmen. And talk about a show that I mean, saying grounded for a show like that is kind of ridiculous, but to an extent you can see like it's like an alternate world, like, you know, Watchmen is, but it's still well in the superhero aspect and still stuff that like would never happen and bonkers, and you know, like I still don't know how they would do a Lantern show like that, but seeing that talent involved, which I think Watchmen is one of the greatest shows we've gotten in the last few years, let alone superhero show. I'm really excited about it, and I hope that we still get some galactic stuff, some stuff in space and all that, the lore of the Green Lanterns. I want that stuff included, but if you're going to try to keep the budget down and keep it more Earth based, and apparently they're having, this is a big thing that will affect the greater universe going forward. That's what I saw a quote on, and I don't know if you have the quote in front of you, but I did see a quote about that, and that got me really excited. I think they've been saying that since it was originally announced, even that it was definitely part of the greater plan.
Yes.
But
Yes.
but I'm excited about it.
Yeah, I agree. First of all, I'm excited to hear it's active, it's moving forward. There's work being done on it right now. Because again, there's that whole announcement. And then there's a lot of things we didn't hear anything about. Doesn't mean they're not moving forward, but we just don't know what's moving forward first. And like I talked about on that episode with Sean, I love Green Lantern. You know, so does Sean. Green Lantern was always a favorite of mine. And so I think that it is past due for us to get more live action Green Lantern. And I'm excited this is finally happening. And it seems like it's, you know, I guess I would call it, it seems like it's priority number 3 after Superman, Supergirl, and now Lanterns. And that's great. Tom King, you know, like many Batman fans, I have mixed feelings on. But his non-Batman stuff, like, is pretty brilliant. So, you know, I'm not going to say just because I didn't like all of his Batman stuff, I'm not going to be like, well, you know, he stinks, because he obviously doesn't. He's still a talented writer. But regardless, Damon Lindelof, like you said, like that Watchmen series was brilliant, was absolutely brilliant. And so that is a heck of a get as far as talent goes, and it's gotten me really excited. It's going to be very interesting, like you said, and like I talked about with Sean, to see what this show really is going to be. But regardless, the talent behind it and the fact that they're working hard on it, and James Gunn seems really psyched about the pilot and the show Bible. I mean, all that stuff is done. We didn't know that was done. So there's a lot to be excited about, and I can't wait to learn more.
The script of the pilot's done, right? They didn't start filming or anything yet.
Oh yes, exactly.
Okay.
No, they haven't done any casting, but he said based on a wonderful pilot script and
Okay.
Bible. So
Yeah,
the show Bible.
yeah.
Yeah.
And like we talked about, like with Tom King, first of all, I love his Mr. Miracle and his Vision runs are both really great stories. His Batman wasn't for me, but I love his story ideas. And he's not doing the script all alone here like he would if he was the writer on a comic book. So even his Batman stuff, I think his stories are great. I'm just not crazy about his style, and there's other people involved here now that I really love. So I think the cumulative effort from all of them is what's going to make this show what it is, and I'm hoping for something special because yeah, I love Green Lantern. Green Lantern is actually my number 2 in the DC universe. Like
Oh
I
wow. Yeah.
listen, I love Superman, but I really fell in love with Green Lantern over the last like 10-15 years when I got into Jeff Johns's comic run, and I I mean, I loved. I get upset when I hear Ryan Reynolds destroy the movie from 2011
I
because
know.
I don't think it's great, but I don't think it's even remotely as bad as everyone makes it out to be. Like I think it's like middle of the road Marvel movie. So
Dude, I am right there with you. I agree with everything you just said. Because yes, it is certainly not the greatest comic book movie of all time, but
no,
it's. I don't think it's bad.
yeah,
There's a
like
lot to like about it.
it's all
Yeah,
right. Like it has some questionable stuff in it, no doubt, but it's all right. Like I can
yeah.
watch it.
I know. I know. I'm with you. One of these days we'll review it on the show. We never have, but yeah, it's been a while since I've gone back to it, but yeah, I always felt like it got unfairly destroyed.
Hmm.
Um, and it's a shame because it poisoned the well for this long, and we're still waiting for more Green Lantern stuff, and
Yeah.
hopefully this is it. So it's exciting, and I can't wait to learn more, and I can't wait to see what the show is really going to be. Again, I don't like. I'm down for the space opera, never on Earth stuff, but I also, for me, that's not a deal breaker. I just don't want it to be so grounded that it's barely a Green Lantern show. That's my concern.
Yeah, I think a mix would be the best because even I will say as much as I love the space opera stuff, sometimes it does become a little much when you're going to all these different planets and I can't remember what planet we're on and what planet we're going to and I can't remember who's where and there's so many different things going on. Sometimes it's nice to come back to Earth and see what's going on Earth too.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
I think a good mix will work.
yeah. So we shall see, but a heck of a writing team already, and yeah, we'll see where it goes. But I mentioned something else that is even further along, and that is Supergirl. And we did know, or we assumed that Supergirl would be next up because we have an actor cast as Supergirl, and we had rumblings and rumors about a possible director. And even though that director had never been confirmed until this announcement that Supergirl now also has a release date. So Craig Gillespie is indeed signed as the director. And again, just for a reminder for anybody who missed the other conversations, he did I, Tanya, he did Cruella, he did the Fright Night remake, he did the Pam and Tommy miniseries. He's a good director. And so, yep, he is directing with Millie Alcock playing Supergirl, and it is now slated for June 26th, 2026, just shy of a year after the release of Superman. And this was a official press release from Warner Brothers, and then James Gunn shared it and said, Craig, Millie, Anna, Chantel, Peter, and I are excited to get started. So, first off, putting that release date on the calendar is a huge deal. That's exciting. It means they're confident. It means they feel good. It means they're ready to get started. And that means they're not going to be like, well, let's just wait for Superman. Let's just wait and see what it does. And everything else will kind of, we'll be in neutral till then. They're moving right ahead. And that's exciting. So we already have a DC movie slated. Well, we already have another DC movie slated for that year in 2026, but now we have one right there in the middle of the summer as well with Supergirl. So Joe, how are you feeling about this?
Yeah, this is I mean, it's always exciting when we actually have a date, and I think with the way James Gunn has said we're not going to start filming until we have a script done makes you feel confident that they're not even going to pick a date unless they know for a fact they're ready to go into production and start rolling. And yeah, to be getting it less than a year after Superman, and I know we've discussed this, and I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but the fact that it's coming before the Batman 2 is insane to me. But
Oh,
um,
oh, I'm about to get there. Don't worry. I
yeah,
don't. I don't want to harp on it too much, but it's worth mentioning.
but yeah, I'm excited about it. I I know we all assume that Supergirl is going to show up in Superman. Has it ever been actually confirmed?
Um,
I
I
don't
mean,
think he's ever actually said it, but yeah, I'd be shocked if she doesn't show up in it, especially since James Gunn casted her. Because I
well,
was
yeah, that's
surprised that
it.
she was cast
They
by
announced.
him.
That's just is they announced the casting along with all the Superman
Yes,
casting. So why else would she be
yeah.
cast
Why
that
would have
early?
exactly? Why wouldn't have he let the director of Supergirl cast her?
Yeah.
So, but yeah, I don't know anything about the actress. I have not seen her in anything, but I will say I'm really excited about the director. Not even because I really know his work. I just love that they're not recycling a typical superhero director again. Like they're not
Hmm.
just using someone that we know. I think it's inspired when they go for someone that clearly has an idea or has a vision of what they want and has never done a superhero film before. I really like that. And listen, I'm not against seeing the same directors that we've had. Like I'm excited about James Gunn doing Superman, but I think this just it's kind of a breath a breath of fresh air to get a director that it'll give me an incentive to be like, oh, like, okay, what has this guy done? Let me see his style and that kind of thing. Cause I like doing that kind of stuff.
Yeah, and when he was initially rumored, that was sort of my take as well. Of like, I would have never thought of it, but
Hmm.
when you look at his resume and then you think about Supergirl, you go, you know what? It does make sense, and it's
Hmm.
unexpected enough to be surprising. But then when you look at all the pieces, you go, no, I think this is a really good and smart call and a really good choice. So yeah, I think it's exciting too. And if they now have a director, they have a star, they've got a script everybody's happy with, they can keep on going, and that's great.
Yeah.
I also you were talking about being a little spoiled with Deathstroke on the small screen. I was just thinking about how spoiled we have gotten with Supergirl.
Yeah.
We had how many years of the TV show, and then we got a much different take on Supergirl and the Flash last year, and now we've got another Supergirl with her own movie. So for Supergirl fans, maybe you're not going to love them all, but you got choices, which is exciting.
Yeah, that's a really good point. And she's even been a really big part of the new animated universe. I don't know how caught up you are on those, but she's been a pretty big part of like Legion of Superheroes and then Crisis also.
Oh, yeah, I still need Legion of Superheroes. I watched. I found it I found it the most fine
Yes.
animated movie, like to the point where I don't want to review it because I don't know what I would say about it. Like I was like, yeah, it was all
Yeah.
right. It was all right. I don't really have anything else to add. Um, but you're right. She was a big character in that. I mean, it was essentially her movie. She was the
Hmm.
lead. And then I've not gotten to Crisis, but it makes sense that she would, of course, be very important to the Crisis
Yeah.
adaptation. So yeah, that's exciting, Supergirl. And you mentioned it, but I do want to mention it again without harping it or trying to be super negative, but it's just crazy. It's crazy to me. Okay. James Gunn announced the slate January 31st of last year of 2023.
Hmm.
Okay. So that was 10 months after the release of the Batman.
Well, and he took over in what, October
October.
officially?
October. Yeah.
So
It
even
was
if you
an
go back to that,
Yeah. It
like,
was an
yeah,
it was announced that he took the job in October, but he
yeah,
didn't share. And then he had a few months to figure out what he wanted the slate to be.
yeah,
So he announced the slate January 31st, 10 months after the release of the Batman. So Supergirl as a movie was announced 10 months after the release of the Batman. And we're going to see it 3 months before the Batman Part 2.
yeah.
That's crazy.
Especially since nowadays you usually rush to get a sequel out as quick as possible before the excitement dwindles. And I mean, everyone's killing like every time a DC movie comes out nowadays, it's like, oh, it's been 5 years since Aquaman, and now we're getting the sequel. Well, at least you had Aquaman show up in other things.
Well, and also you also had like a 2-year pandemic.
Yeah.
So originally it was supposed to be 4 years, which is still a little long. It's not ideal. Again, 3 years tends to be the sweet spot, but the pandemic is a pretty darn good excuse. And I know that there have been excuses for the strikes for the Batman, but I'm like, even so, they
Yeah.
weren't 2 years. And it's going to be almost 5 years between the movies. It's crazy. It's crazy to me. So anyway, I it's not to harp on, but when you look at those timelines, it's baffling. I don't know what Matt Reeves is doing. I don't know.
Yeah, like
I-
I
If
don't
if
even
he,
want to
he
be
wakes up in the
negative.
morning and he writes exterior Gotham, and then he goes back to bed and he goes, I did my writing for the day.
I picture Joey and Chandler creating Fireball in Friends. I don't know how up on Friends you are, but while Joey's trying to write his scripts, that's kind of what I picture. If anyone else gets that reference, but and not even I don't even want to be negative on it because I enjoy the Batman, and so to me, you're setting yourself up for higher scrutiny because you're taking so much time on this. It's like this script better be perfect. Like, if there's anything that's not perfect in this script, everyone's gonna be like, it took you 5 years for that. So that's the part that bothers me the most, I think, because I just, I mean, I wanted the movie out. I wanted to see the sequel. I was excited for the sequel, and now it's just taking so long that I just feel, all right, don't screw this up now because you better get everything perfect.
Yeah, I mean, you have been given all the time in the world, and so you make the most of it.
Yeah.
So, regardless, Supergirl again, 2 weeks shy of a year after the release of Superman. So, mark your calendars, y'all. Something to be excited about. And so that was a very exciting announcement that happened where I went, all right, let's do this. So I'm really looking forward to that. I think it's exciting. Speaking of Tom King, I need to read the book that it's based on.
Mm-hmm.
I've heard nothing but great things, and so I need to read it. Especially, I mean, and it'll be interesting to see how close they adhere to it. But still, I know it's on DC Universe Infinite. I just need to read it. Maybe on my next cruise.
And like, I like that we're not getting like they're not rushing to get 3 movies out a year to start
Yeah.
this universe. We're getting Superman, and then the following year, the only other movie that's been announced is Supergirl. So they're not saying like we got to get this universe going fast. They're saying let's start it off. Let's make sure we got everything right, and then we can start maybe expanding as we go.
Right. And like you mentioned, James Gunn was very deliberate in the way he was like, nothing moves forward until we feel the script is ready.
Mm-hmm.
And so far, it feels like he is staying true to that word, which is good. And, still, like, it's still a good time to be a DC fan because in 2026, yeah, you're going to get to see Supergirl in June and you're going to get to see the Batman Part 2 in October.
Mm-hmm.
Fingers crossed. So even so, you've got 2 big DC movies in that year.
Yeah.
And listen, as a fan, I loved getting 4 movies last year, but for those who aren't quite as invested as I am, it might have been too much. So, sometimes less is more. And you're right, like rushing to get 3 a year is probably bad for everybody. And I mean, and Marvel's learning that lesson.
Yeah.
So, yeah, it'll be interesting now to see like what moves forward. But I also think that Lanterns, based on what's happening, that could be something that comes out between Superman and Supergirl.
That's what I'm hoping. Yeah, that'll be next year, and then don't forget we got Creature Commandos this year. We got Penguin this year. I know Penguin's obviously a different universe, but we don't know what other shows might creep up on us too.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and Peacemaker too.
Oh, that's right, Peacemaker season 2.
Yeah. So there will still be plenty of things to enjoy, but yeah, it's going to be more of a variety, but I think that's a good thing.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Well, there you have it. That's the latest big stuff that I thought was worth discussing around the DC universe, unless you've got something that I completely forgot. It's possible.
Oh, do I? No, I don't.
No, you good? Okay.
I got nothing. I got what you gave me. That's it.
Great. Well, anyway, so yeah, it's kind of what's happened over the past couple weeks. Worth mentioning, doing a little catch up. But now we're gonna catch up with you guys. We're gonna catch up with you, fine feathered finks, and crack open the Wayne Manor mailbox. Who's coming again? and for Man or Man Boys.
You've got mail.
Daryl, what is a letter for me?
Maybe temporary.
She wrote a letter.
You're one hell of a messenger. This is all Master Wayne.
Got a few emails here, Joe, so I would love to get through some. That would be terrific. So this one here comes from Alec. It says, "Hey, Bat Family, I hope you're doing well. I wanted to write in about the suit reveal for Superman. I'm a fan of what I see. However, I can't help but feel like it was a weird picture for a first look. The only reason I say this is because, like you mentioned in the episode, the suit is dirty and about 33% of the suit is obscured because he's sitting down. All this to say, I wish we got a clearer picture, but I do like what I'm seeing anyway. Now, on to my second reason for writing. I recently started introducing my partner to the world of Batman, and so far it's going well. I've shown them Batman Under the Red Hood as their first Batman movie, and I've shown her Batman the Brave and the Bold and Scooby-Doo. So, I guess my question is, what else should I show her to help her fall in love with the Dark Knight the same way I have? Best wishes, Alec." Thanks, Alec, and good to hear from you. And I can't disagree with any of your points about the Superman suit picture. And I think honestly, it's a lot of stuff that we discussed too. So I'm like, yeah, I like it, and not necessarily what I would have done, but I still like the suit. And so yeah, I'm with you on that. But what do you think, Joe? What should Alex show his partner to get her to love Batman like us?
Well, first off, I love his first choices because they're so far different ends of the spectrum in the animated world. But I think that's perfect because you're showing her how malleable Batman is.
Yeah.
I mean, the obvious answer, and Brendan will kill us if we don't say it, but Batman the Animated Series. That's the one that
Yep.
Is always the go-to for like the gold standard of Batman. I would even go, I mean, I'm kind of staying in TV, but I think Batman 66 is so much fun. Like, just to show her the ridiculousness of that, she might get a kick out of it. But I mean, the easy answer is just the movies, like all the regular live action movies, any of them.
I know. I mean, yeah, I agree with you. I was going to say, I thought the same thing of Batman the Animated Series. It's it's such a perfect entry point for everyone because it's such a perfect version.
Mm-hmm.
But I would even say maybe start with Mask of the Phantasm.
Yeah, that's true because it is kind of the origin.
Yeah, it's a great movie. It is a nice introduction to that world. But it's a great movie on its own. And then I think that you could use that as a gateway to watch more of the series, watch before bed, one episode before bed or something. And then you're right. Then the movies, pick and choose your favorites, I guess. But I don't know if we're starting out, I would say maybe go with Batman Begins first. Like that, I think would be another nice entry point because what I think is so brilliant about Batman Begins, and I think I mentioned in the past, is it really starts as a quote unquote, and I don't mean this disparagingly, as a real movie or a regular movie.
Yeah.
And then it just slowly transitions you into being a comic book movie by the end. And it does it so seamlessly and so deftly that by the end, when he's hanging off a monorail trying to stop a machine from vaporizing all the water in Gotham, you're like, oh, yeah, I buy all of this. And I think that was such a neat magic trick that no one pulled off because when it starts, it's just so relatable. And he just folds in the more fantastical elements gradually as you go. And I think it works beautifully. So I think that's a nice entry point for someone new to the world of Batman.
Yeah, I never thought about it in those terms before. But yeah, the first hour of the movie is basically as realistic as you can get, other than maybe the hallucinations and that. But you could still like buy that as like you're right, like just a typical movie. Like you don't even know you're watching a Batman movie if you don't tell anybody what you're watching.
Yeah,
My other question would be like, I've never had the experience of like having to introduce someone to any Batman movie. Like I don't know, like my wife, like she wasn't a nerd, but like she saw the movies, like she knew of the character. So I almost want to say like, where's your partner been? Like,
yeah, I know. I don't know. But
I'm glad she's getting into it now. Better late than never.
Right. I'm jealous that she gets to watch them for the first time.
Right. Yeah.
All right, next email here is from Tim. It says, "Greetings, Holy BatCasters. I enjoyed your episode about the Batman movie posters. After listening, I wanted to share a story I thought you might enjoy about my recent hunt for a child-sized Batman Forever shirt and how I found out along the way that my second grader is a scary judge of beauty. Over the past few months, my son has been quite taken with Batman Forever and especially enjoys the kung fu smackdown between Dick Grayson and the glow-in-the-dark street punks. He asked me to find him a Batman Forever t-shirt, presumably to better express his love of the film. No challenge in the summer of 1995, but much more of a task in 2024. The chase was on. eBay was no particular help unless I wanted to buy a vintage child-sized shirt with holes in it for $200. Fortunately, some nosing around online finally netted me a black shirt in his size with the classic movie poster of the cascading characters on the front. Problem solved, happy kid, and the shirt worn proudly at a local Comic-Con. Then days later, we saw a movie together at the AMC, and the Nicole Kidman promo showed up during the previews. My son turned and said, "Is that the lady from Batman Forever?" I told him it was, and he replied, "She got old." I reminded him that Batman thought she was pretty and was swiftly reminded that was a long time ago. She's not pretty anymore. Oh, ouch. Say what you will, kiddo, but I still wouldn't kick her out of bed for eating crackers. Thanks as always for the excellent Bat content. Keep up the great work. Best, Tim. Thanks, Tim. Wow. Well, I'm going to politely disagree with your son. I think Nicole Kidman is still lovely, but yeah, people age. It
happens. She's
my
got to
God.
be in her 50s by now.
It'll be 30 years next year.
Yeah.
So, I mean, let's give her a little credit. Yeah, she's probably in her late 50s by now.
Yeah, because she had to have been at the youngest in her, high 20s when Batman Forever came out?
Probably. So, anyway,
yeah, I think she's still beautiful. So.
She is. She's still gorgeous. We love her. She still kicked ass in Aquaman as Queen Atlanta. But how funny. Yep. He'll understand. Time moves forward.
Kids have no filter.
Part of the deal. Yep. But I love that he wanted a Batman Forever shirt, and I was glad you were able to find him one. I got mine, but it's just the logo. But I was able to get that from the WB online store. That's pretty cool. So worth mentioning, as long as we're talking news and stuff and we're talking Batman Forever, Joe, the pre-sale for the McFarlane Batman Forever toys happens June 7th. So
I saw, and they announced it with the figures in the poster, which was
I know.
Yeah.
I love it. So I marked my calendar. Next message from Weston Craig. It says, "Hey, I'm a scaredy cat. I like to imagine Batman beating up horror villains to help me be less scared when watching the movies. So what famous horror movie villains do you think might beat Batman, like Jason, Michael, or Freddy? Which horror movie villains do you think Joker could beat in a fight? Why or why not? Thanks, Weston." Thank you, Weston. Oh, man. Getting a little jump on spooky season, I guess. So any horror movie villains you think could beat Batman, Joe?
I think Freddy, to me, was the first one that came to mind for Batman.
Yeah. I feel like it has to be someone with like magical powers.
Yeah.
Because I feel like Batman could outthink and strategize for like Michael Myers or Jason, people like that. But like Freddy is going to be trickier.
Mm-hmm. I don't see him having problems with Michael Myers. I think Michael might have to move a little faster.
Yeah.
You know, the stalking of Batman is not going to work too well. Yeah.
Like I think Batman could take out Leatherface pretty easily. Mm-hmm. Leatherface is just a stupider Bane, right? So I think he could do that. I think it has to be someone like with magical powers, because otherwise Batman will figure it out. And then any horror movie villains you think the Joker could beat?
I'll let you go first on that one.
Oh my God.
I have an easy answer for that one, but I was gonna let you go to see if you can come to it.
Megan?
Oh, I was thinking, Joker versus Penny. I was thinking Joker and Pennywise.
Well, I thought that too, but I feel like Pennywise would win. You think
Joker has to win? I got you. So Megan, that would be pretty funny.
So I'm like, I don't know, Megan. I feel like Joker could take out Megan or Chucky. Some of the smaller ones.
I just picture Joker getting a kick out of all these villains.
Yeah. I mean, he might just recruit them, but
Yeah.
yeah, those are the ones I'm thinking because Joker, he can certainly be diabolical and cause mischief, but he's not a powerhouse. So I feel like Jason would do to Joker what he did to Freddy and like rip his arms off. And same thing with Michael. But like, yeah, I think some of the smaller horror villains, and maybe the Sanderson sisters, the Joker could take on and win. So thanks, Weston. Fun question. Next question here is from Mike Ortego. It says, "Greetings, Holy BatCast. I was watching Icons on Earth Batman, and I was listening to your episodes. I wanted to maybe defend Joel Schumacher. Not that you were putting him down, as he does get a lot of grief from fans. However, I wonder if he'd been given the proper freedom from WB to make the movies he wanted, and maybe we would have gotten Batman movies that were more faithful to the comics. In interviews, I've seen him mention a few times his love for Batman comics in general, even when he was talking about his Batman movies, which is more than we can say for Tim Burton. Also, if you look at his filmography, I'd say a lot of his movies are actually really good, and based on those movies, he seems like a perfect choice to direct a Batman movie. Falling Down in particular somewhat reminds me of Batman Year One, where the story is about two main characters who don't really meet until the end. Anyway, I just wanted to drop this email to say that I think we as fans tend to give Joel Schumacher too much crap when he simply made the movies he was told to make. And he had the best intentions. Then again, maybe I'm wrong, because as the saying goes, the road to hell is paved with good intentions. Just my thoughts. Would love to hear yours. Keep up the good work and the amazing podcast. God bless, Mike in Louisiana. P.S. Keep the Harley cameos coming." Thanks, Mike. And Harley is asleep, thankfully. So no cameos this week, but that's okay. It's more fun when it's unexpected. So, Joe, what are your thoughts on this this Joel Schumacher situation?
Well, I've heard you say this before, that, with Joel, if you look at his other movies, they don't line up with what we got with Batman Forever and Batman and Robin. And I think even with Batman Forever, he did have good intentions with what he wanted to do. And if we ever get the cut that we were supposed to get, I think maybe we'll see that. But yeah, it's hard to know what he wanted to do and what the studio, where he wanted to do ended and what the studio wanted started, or vice versa, because it's hard to, whose fault was it that Tommy Lee Jones came on set and tried to one up Jim Carrey? Like, where did all those decisions go? Or was it more, did he want that, or did he just kind of lose the fight with him? Other than that and the goofiness of it, I love, like, the style of the movie. I mean, say what you will about it, he had a vision and it had a style to Gotham. He was doing something different than what Tim Burton did. But yeah, it was just such a different time too. But I don't kill Schumacher for doing Batman and Robin. I'm more curious of what he really intended with Batman Forever. I think Batman and Robin was just, hey, let's make some money with a sequel, and he was just, if I remember correctly, with Icons on Earth, did he, like, what was his opinion on what he wanted to do with Batman and Robin?
They didn't really go into it in what I remember. I mean, I think that, but
wasn't he not really into it as much?
I don't know. I feel like it's pretty well accepted. It's like, I mean, he's already passed when they made this, so I think your better odds are to go back and watching the documentaries on the old DVDs where he talks about it. But I think because Batman Forever was successful, I think everyone was just happy to be like, great, let's do it again. We cracked the code and we found out what worked, and let's just do that again. And it seemed like everyone was in pretty much agreement on that. But I feel like, and I'm glad you remember it, but I do feel like I'm pretty kind to Joel Schumacher, especially these days. Like I think I used to give him grief in my younger years, but for the most part, I agree with what Mike is saying here. And I feel like I have said it, at least in passing on the show, is that, by all accounts, he was a lovely guy to hang out with and a lovely guy to work with. And when I listened to his interviews and I listened to his commentaries, I'm like, yeah, I'm sad I could never sit down and talk to Joel Schumacher because he seems like he'd be a hoot to spend time with. So he seems like he was a great guy. And yeah, he's made some really great movies. And when he came to do Batman, and I do think this was mentioned in Icons Unearthed about Batman Forever, where when he came on, his initial approach was to make it a much more seamless sequel to the Burton films.
Yeah.
And they said, no, like go further, get further away from that.
Yeah.
And so that I thought was fascinating. And do you remember them saying that?
I do. And that's where I'm curious of, did he still try to toe that line and it was all done in editing to make it as goofy as possible?
I think it was both. I think that a lot of it changed before shooting because it sounded like in pre-production he was trying to make it a true sequel to the first two, and they kept pushing him to get it further away. And then we of course know about the re-editing, and it seems like even a lot of the dialogue was re-recorded in post and everything. So yeah, I think that then it got pushed even further in post-production.
And then I think like even someone like Val Kilmer, he seems like someone that probably would have signed on knowing that it was going to be this darker thing. And then, obviously he wasn't the easiest person to deal with. He probably got worse once he saw what was going on with the production.
Yeah.
And with the direction it was going in. And yeah, I don't kill Schumacher. Schumacher seemed like a good, the term used is like he was a good soldier. Like he did what he was asked to do.
Yeah. Yeah. And he even said that.
And I think that's the most upsetting thing about Icons Unearthed was some people did kind of talk badly about the way he acted or the way he was kind of like not always present in doing things with the movies. And that was the first time we had ever really heard any of that before.
Yeah. Yeah. You're right. It's really the first time I heard anyone speak disparaging about him as a person.
Yeah.
Obviously plenty of people have talked disparagingly about the movies, but as a person, nobody's really said anything negative until Icons Unearthed, which was a bummer to hear because that was a little surprising. But I will say though, on the other side of the coin, Jim Carrey's performance and Tommy Lee Jones's performance, that is Joel Schumacher's fault. He's the director.
Yeah.
His job is to direct the performances that the actors are giving. And he didn't do it for whatever reason. Maybe you're right. Maybe Tommy Lee Jones was like, I'm doing what I'm doing and I'm not listening to you. I just won an Oscar, damn it. Maybe that was the case. I don't know.
And maybe Schumacher is too nice of a guy to even care about fighting with him.
Yeah.
He's like, you know what, whatever.
but again, I have a lot of issues with those movies, but especially as far as the villains goes in those movies, that's when Schumacher, as the director, he had to know when to step in and go, okay, this time let's bring it down a little bit.
Yeah.
Because the highs are only great if you've got lows. And unfortunately, there's no lows anywhere. And that I feel like was always a failing of his. But that aside, again, seems like a nice guy. He did the job he was asked to do. And he said as much in the interviews on the old Shadows of the Bat, where he's like, I was hired to do a job. I did that job. If you found that offensive or you were upset about it, I apologize. I was doing the job I was hired to do. And that's totally fair.
And I reiterate, whether you like it or not, he put some detail in those movies. I mean, I am still amazed at like the props and like the money is on the screen. Like, yes, the decisions were probably not the decisions any of us would have made, but man, like if you look at all the stuff that they put into that, it is amazing. I mean, I've spoken to you with like the WB tour when you get to see the props up close, man, those things are beautiful. Like just the batarangs used in Batman and Robin are so cool. Like all the tech, like, yeah, they were selling toys, but they were making some really cool stuff.
Yep. I know. I do agree with that. I mean, even if I didn't love all the choices because they were so over the top and they were very cartoony. And I've said this in the past, is like, but then when you go see one at the WB tour, you're like, yeah, but that Bat Hammer still looks really cool in person, you know, like,
Like you wonder if like the way the movie was filmed could have saved like the style choices. Like if they toned down the jokes and
yeah, yeah,
the performances, could you have had fun with it and kind of found that happy medium?
yeah. No, I do think so. I mean, I know that there are people out there who like took Batman and Robin, especially, and re-edited it and even like tweaked the colors to just make it not so garish, which, you know, I've never watched more than like 2 or 3 minutes of something like that, but I know that it's out there, which is interesting. But you're right, it could have been, but again, you know, he was told to make it big and colorful and kid friendly, and that's what he did. And I'll tell you what, the older I get, the more I appreciate both of those movies.
It's like a nostalgia thing now.
It's
It's like comfort.
nostalgia's a big part of it. It is, but the other part of it is I'm like, you know what? It's not what I would have done. They're never going to be my favorites, but hey, they're colorful, and he was trying to give us a good time.
And we
And
got Batman
there's
Begins out of it.
yeah, and there's something to be said for that.
Mhm.
All right, next message here is from Mark Bickford. Mark, if you're listening, this is a long one, so I'm going to have to do some editing. Don't take it personally. It says, hey, Andy, I hope you and your family had a wonderful time on the cruise. I've been on several, and I had a great time. I'd love to hear any details you're willing to share. Well, first of all, chasing a 2-year-old around a cruise ship is exhausting. And when they're in the nursery, it's a great time to read comics. But yeah, we had a great time. He says, I want to thank you for covering the Icons on Earth series. I didn't know about it until you brought it up, and I really got a lot out of it. So thanks. I do want to mention one thing I noticed, Sean Young, then and now. Comparing the videos of the old days to the newer interview footage and wanting to remain positive, I'll just say that young people listening to the show, stay away from tobacco. No smoking, no vaping, no chewing. That can do horrible things outside of just killing you. She said in one of the interviews she took it up at a young age to make her voice huskier. So some questions. And again, there's a lot. I'm just going to pick and choose. The first one's about Superman, Woman of Tomorrow. It says, I'm assuming Kara will be introduced during the movie itself, since James Gunn has talked about the movie is looking at Superman and Clark Kent, both sides of his life, and Kara really crosses between those because she's a superhero and family. Do you think it would work instead of a typical post-credit scene? We get to the very end of the credits, the WB logo comes up, and they follow it with a teaser for Woman of Tomorrow. They will have been filming for a few months by the time Superman comes out, so they should have something. Presumably, the trailer would then be officially released online or on Monday after opening weekend. It would be a different approach, don't you think? And then he says, I don't know if you've caught up on the animated Crisis on Infinite Earths, but do you think they'll end on a new Earth that leads directly to Creature Commandos? So, Mark, thank you for the message. And first question is intriguing. What do you think, Joe? I mean, I like we already said, I think that yes, Supergirl's going to be in Superman, but what if they took the opportunity to end Superman with a promo for Supergirl?
I can see that. I think it's been done a couple times before. I want to say the X-Men movies did that one time. I know, like, what was it? They did that for Avengers after Captain America, the first Avenger, right?
Yeah, and that one always kind of, excuse me, I'm going to use a Brendan term. It kind of shits me because at the time it was great because I couldn't wait for the Avengers. But Captain America, the first Avenger, is one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. And what bugs the shit out of me is that the scene of him waking up is so obviously the end credit scene.
Yeah.
It's supposed to end with that little boy with the makeshift shield, and like what a perfect ending for the movie.
Yep.
But because they wanted to put in the trailer for the Avengers, we get the post-credit scene tacked on to the actual movie, and I just don't think it's as good. I feel like it would have worked better the other way. So yeah, it kind of bugs me. But you're right, that is what they did.
Yeah, I know they've done it one other time too. I want to say with the Spider-Man movies. I don't remember if like Venom was at the end.
They did it with
Spider-Verse, right?
Spider-Verse. Yep, that was it. Yeah, they put a little promo for Spider-Verse at the end of something.
I think it was at the end of Venom.
Oh, wow. Okay.
Or I'm getting it mixed up. If it was like Venom had a teaser at the end of Spider-Verse, or Spider-Verse had a teaser at the end of Venom. But yeah, I can see them doing that. I think they'll probably go the more conventional route and just do maybe a post-credit scene or something like that.
Yeah. I think it's much more likely to do just like a tease of Supergirl going off that would then lead to whatever comes next, as opposed to actually doing a trailer. I'd be okay with it, but yeah, I'm not also pinning my hopes on it, but it certainly is one way they could go if that's what they chose to do.
It would be fun. It just thinks is like nowadays we know about this stuff all the time before we go see these movies, and it ruins like the oh man, like look at this. Like we don't have that, surprise and excitement anymore. Like where we'd see it for the first time and have no idea it was coming.
Well, and I will also say, just playing devil's advocate, with all the conversation around like this is the next big Superman movie, I don't want the end of the Superman movie to be a trailer for Supergirl.
Mm-hmm.
I want it to still be Superman.
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, and then do you think that Crisis on Infinite Earths, the animated version, could lead to Creature Commandos? I didn't think of this either. It's certainly possible, but I'm not counting on it because I just don't know how connected all those people are to the future plans. But if they were to do that, I would be very impressed that they had their ducks in a row to be able to do that.
Yeah, it would lend credence to the fact that they've said everything will be connected eventually. Like they didn't want to do so many different things. I can see them doing it because they're doing some pretty crazy stuff with Crisis. I think the third part's even going to be the craziest one. But yeah, I don't know. It could go either way. Like it's one of those things where you're right. I'd be impressed by it, but I also wouldn't be shocked if they did it. I don't know. I personally would prefer that they didn't do it because I feel like I want the Crisis. I mean, they're doing a 3-part Crisis animated thing. I'd rather it kind of be on its own, but they are kind of doing it to close out this universe. It would make sense if they used it to start the next one or whatever they're deciding to do with the animation going forward.
Yeah. That'll be interesting. I still need to watch those. Because it's 3-part. It's kind of like we were talking about with comic books, where I'm like, I'm in no rush to watch the first one because I know there are 2 more coming. I'll just wait till they're all out and then I'll watch them all. All right. Well, I have a quick message here from Brandon from South Carolina, and he just asked about the Long Halloween, the last Halloween, and we already covered that, Brandon, but I just want to give you the shout out and appreciate the message. But hopefully our conversation earlier kind of checks the box of what you were asking here. And then I got one last email here from Charles. It says, "Hey, Holy BatCasters. Sorry for asking a question related to a picture on an audio podcast. But with all the Batman 89 talk, I've been watching a lot of Batman stuff, including the 1989 movie. As I was watching it recently, this part of the movie came up again, as it's come up every single time I have watched the movie. It takes part after the Batmobile blows up the chemical factory, but the Joker escaped by helicopter. Batman looks up, but the Batmobile is behind him. How is this picture shot? It looks like the Batmobile is on an angle. Is there more to this picture?" Oh, Charles, I'm pulling up the picture. I think that it's just because it's so it's with Batman looking up, and when you're looking down at him, you're seeing much more of the hood of the Batmobile instead of it just being behind him. But I think that's just the angle. I think it's because it's like a high up angle and it looks down, which allows you to see more of the hood of the Batmobile. That's all I'm getting from it, Charles. I'm going to I'll look for it the next time I watch the movie, which, let's be real, is going to be pretty soon because the 35th is coming up. But yeah, that's all I think. I don't know if that's helpful, but yeah, I think it's just because of, I think it's just the illusion being created by the camera angle. All right. Well, that's it. We're closing the Wayne Manor mailbox. Everybody, thanks for writing in. We love hearing from you. If you've got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, you can send that to holybatcast@rf4rm.com. We love your questions, your thoughts, your pictures, all those things. So thank you. And we look forward to seeing what you got for us next time. But until then, let's wrap it up. Let's call it a night, Joe. Again, thanks for joining, Joe. Always a pleasure. Always great to get your thoughts and your insights. And so thanks for being part of the family.
Thank you for having me on. It's always fun to be on here. And it was nice to answer some questions and cover some news.
Heck yeah. So where else can we find you if anybody at home wants to keep up with you?
You can find me on Twitter, Instagram, and Letterboxd as JForn11. And you can find me on Facebook as Joe Fornarotto, Fornarotto. And you can find me over at The Fire Rises, TM, with Eric Carter. We do our own podcast over there, and we owe a lot to the Holy BatCast guys, so it's fun that we get to come on here once in a while and do this with them. But yeah, we cover more less timely stuff. We don't do the news or anything. It's more like we pick a topic and just kind of talk about it every couple of weeks.
Yeah. Here at Holy BatCast, we're Cheers. Over at The Fire Rises, you're Frasier.
Oh, I'll take that. I was going to say Wings. I was going to be like, Wings or something a little bit less known.
We here at Holy BatCast, we're Three's Company. The Fire Rises is the Ropers.
There you go.
Yeah, we're Perfect Strangers. Your family matters. How many of these can I do?
I'll take
we're the Mary Tyler Moore Show. You're Rhoda. Anyway, I know it's always good having you, and thank you again. Thank you everybody out there for listening and for downloading the show. Please do follow or subscribe so you never miss an episode. Please find Holy BatCast all over social media on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and YouTube. If you got something for the Wayne Manor mailbox, that email address again is holybatcast@rf4rm.com. Our theme music was created by the talented Gaurav Venkateswar. You can find his work at gvtunes.com. And don't forget to check out our sponsors over at manscaped.com. But if you're going to make a purchase, just use that promo code BATSCAPED to get your 20% off and free shipping. But that will do it for this Bat-tastic episode. Thanks for joining us. On behalf of Joe, I've been Andy. We'll see you next time. Same Bat time, same Bat channel. Holy BatCast is not affiliated with Warner Brothers or DC Entertainment. The views and opinions shared by the participants are theirs and theirs alone and do not represent the companies or organizations they happen to work for. So now I just consider you like a spin-off. In the nicest sense.
Well, I was taking it because you were naming good spin-offs. I was going to say like
good.
After Cheers, it was going to be either Wings or there was like a crap. I can't even remember the name, but
how about this? I'm Friends. You're Joey because you mentioned the Friends.
Exactly. I was thinking like crappy spin-offs that didn't make it. That's what I was trying to compare myself to.
What are some other ones? I don't know. I'm Family Guy. You're American Dad. Was that a spinoff? I don't even know. I don't actually watch.
I don't even think it was.
Yeah, well, close enough.
Yeah.